the Great Depression was not just an economic collapse. It was a brutal wake-up call that exposed the fragility of an entire system built on illusion, greed, and overconfidence. During the 1920s, America was booming. The stock market was treated like a magic money machine, and everyone wanted in. Bankers, factory workers, even housewives. Credit was cheap, regulations were weak, and people were borrowing money they didn't have to buy stocks they didn't understand. It was the era of wild speculation, when headlines promised a new era of endless prosperity. But beneath that glittering surface, the foundation was rotting. Factories were overproducing goods people couldn't afford. Farmers were drowning in debt, and wealth was concentrated in the hands of a few. When the bubble finally burst in October 1929, it wasn't a gentle correction. It was a free fall. In a few terrifying days, billions of dollars in paper wealth evaporated. Crowds gathered outside the New York Stock Exchange, staring in disbelief as the numbers they trusted turned to dust. Banks began to fail one after another, and without deposit insurance, people lost everything overnight. Businesses collapsed, unemployment exploded, and the economy went into cardiac arrest. By 1933, roughly 1 in 4 Americans was jobless, and countless families were homeless. Breadlines and soup kitchens stretched for blocks, while farmers burned crops they couldn't sell. The psychological damage was just as devastating as the financial ruin. People who had once believed in the American dream now stood in line for food, wondering if the system they trusted had betrayed them. But the Depression wasn't confined to the United States. Global trade collapsed. Europe, still recovering from World War I, spiraled deeper into chaos. Nations turned inward, raising tariffs and cutting ties. Currencies collapsed, poverty spread, and political extremism found fertile ground. In that sense, the Great Depression didn't just crash markets, it helped set the stage for World War II. Back in America, leadership shifted. When Franklin D. Roosevelt took office in 1933, the country was in despair. Banks were closing by the thousands, and confidence in capitalism was nearly gone. Roosevelt's response was the New Deal, a bold, controversial, and unprecedented expansion of government power. He created public works programs that put millions to work building roads, dams, and bridges. He established the FDIC to protect bank deposits and the SEC to regulate Wall Street's excesses. For the first time, the federal government took responsibility for stabilizing the economy and protecting ordinary citizens from corporate recklessness. Critics called it socialism, supporters called it survival. Either way, it worked. Slowly, painfully, but effectively. Confidence began to return, and with it, a cautious sense of hope. Yet the Depression didn't truly end until the mobilization for World War II flooded the economy with demand and jobs. Factories that once sat idle now produced tanks, planes, and weapons. Unemployment vanished almost overnight, and the same industrial power that had collapsed in the 1930s became the engine of victory in the 1940s. By the war's end, America had transformed from a broken, fearful nation into the dominant economic superpower of the world. But the scars of the Depression never fully faded. It taught an unforgettable lesson, that markets left unchecked will always chase greed until they crash. It showed how interconnected everything is, how a few bad financial decisions at the top can devastate millions at the bottom. It forced the government to rethink its role, leading to social safety nets, financial oversight, and the idea that economic stability is a collective responsibility. Even today, echoes of the Great Depression still shape how we think about money, risk, and power. Every time a market overheats, every time greed starts to outrun reason, economists and investors look back to 1929 as a warning, because history has a cruel habit of repeating itself when people stop paying attention. The Great Depression wasn't just a historical event. It was a mirror held up to human nature, revealing what happens when optimism turns to arrogance and discipline gives way to delusion. It's a reminder that prosperity built on speculation is never real, that trust is the foundation of any economy, and once that trust breaks, the fall is fast and merciless.